Welcome to On the Beat, where we bring you a different Buffalo Bills beat reporter every week, exclusively on the Overreaction Sports Network.
Well, good evening, Bills Mafia, and welcome to the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network presented by FanDuel. This is John Fina here with you, and tonight's episode of On the Beat, we are thrilled to have Dom Tibbetts from WKBW, Channel 7 ABC in Buffalo, New York. Dom, thanks for joining me. It's solo, just you and me. Hate to disappoint. You don't have Joe Miller, the voice, but you get the quasi legend, John Fina.
No, John, I appreciate you guys having me on. Always a pleasure. And listen, I'm the number 2 in my department as well. So however you want to phrase it to us, sometimes you call in the bullpen, things usually go really well. So that's how I'm going to view this interview between us two tonight. We're going to be just fine. We're going to have a lot of fun.
I love it. I love it. All right, man. Well, look, I'm out here in Arizona. It's getting a little cold. I know it's really getting chilly over there in Buffalo, and I imagine that you made it to the game on Sunday and you were able to bear witness to what ended up being a very exciting game in the third and fourth quarter, and the Bills taking it down. Give me a little bit of first of all, where do you watch the game? And give me a little bit of a taste of your experience.
Yeah, so for all home games and then some of the road games that I'll travel to, my main job is I'm on the sidelines shooting the highlights for our station. So I'm right in the thick of it. I call it the best seat in the house. Even on a day where it's a little cold and a little snowy, I will say the Bengals game was, for me, some of the most ideal conditions you can get in the winter. The wind wasn't that bad. The snow was coming down pretty hard-ish, but it makes for great shots, great cinematic-looking things.
For sure.
And honestly, it's, as somebody who just, if you like football, like those are kind of things that you grow to love here in Buffalo. So I was a big fan of it. You just got to know how to layer up, double up socks, stick a couple hand warmers in your pocket when you can cheat a little bit, when the play is in like a rest or something like that. Put your hands in your pockets, warm up a bit. But yeah, that's where I got to catch that one. Like you said, it was a tale of two halves, which is funny because that's honestly, John, how I thought the Steelers game was the week prior. Was a complete dumpster fire in the first half and then a total 180 in the second half. And that kind of was the same storyline for this Bengals game. So it was one of the better, if not, I would say easily a top 5 game I've ever covered of the Bills. I mean, that was a spectacle, watching just Joe and Josh kind of go back at each other, 2 of the best in the NFL. That is the kind of stuff that puts the butts in seats.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Another question about, are you roaming the sidelines? You get to the end zones, you on our sideline? And then do you have like a favorite stance you use or anything like that? And are you shooting with a video camera or are you going still life?
Well, we are going pure video camera. It is a 30-pound piece of equipment that does shoot very, very well. I'm a pretty good shooter. I always say the standard is Dan Fates from 13 Wham in Rochester. I'm not there yet. That's where I'm aspiring to be at this point. But I'll roam up and down the sidelines. It's kind of a preference on your technique of how people shoot. Like growing up in the business and going through other stations and shooting like high school football, where you first start to get used to the camera, you're always following the ball. So like whoever's on offense, you're shooting at them. So the play is going to come at you. But with the Bills, I normally, obviously when they're on offense, I'm going to shoot with them heading towards the end zone. I'm shooting in, but when they're on defense, I normally give them to about the 50. So if something defensively happens, like the Christian Benford play, I can get that in frame. Now I do roam, which going back to that play, John, is for as great as it was, I didn't get anything but him just running because I was moving up the field as it happened. So I just got him coming down and then running. And thankfully he ran to kind of the right side of that end zone. So he didn't go back into the Bills sideline where he cut off from our point of view. So I was able to at least get the run, but I didn't get him actually making the jump for the ball, so that stunk. Thankfully, Dan got it, so appreciate Dan Fates again for that one. But yeah, so we're roaming, running up, back, and down. And yeah, if you are anybody who notices the camera guys in our big brown vest on the sidelines, we are getting a good amount of cardio in. If you've ever asked yourself, yes, we are getting steps in. So I feel good if I miss gym day.
As much cardio as I got in when I played, or a little bit less, you think?
Oh, probably a little less, John. I'm going to be honest with you there. I don't want to start comparing myself to a high-powered athlete here. Maybe just a little bit less, though.
It's just a skosh. You took my next question, which was, have you ever been like moving one way, trying to line up for what you think is coming, and just
all
totally
the time
walk yourself out of it? And you're like,
all the time. There's the Benford play is the like most recent one where I can think of. There's so many other ones where I'm like, damn, if I had just stayed and gotten that just in that moment, it would have been such a great shot. But I will say for every one of those moments, I feel lucky enough where I've had twice or three times as many moments where a play's coming at me and I'm like, holy cow, that was beautiful. I got that perfectly. It's going to look so good.
That's fantastic. Everybody listening to this pod is going to be like, oh man, Dom has got the dream job, right? Be on the sideline, be around the players, be around all the media. And the difference in the sound when you're on the field, when the fans are going crazy, as opposed to being in the stands is just an incredible sensation, right? I mean, you could feel that sound reverberating through you.
The Benford play, and that wasn't a packed Highmark Stadium. I've seen it a little more full. I think the snow, the weather had a little bit to do with it, but people hung around. I thought Bills fans, compared to maybe that Ravens game, right? Like I think Bills fans really hung around for this one. The Benford play was about the loudest pop I've heard all season. It was electric, and it's different. Like if I sit up in the press box when I used to do that a couple years ago before I shoot the game, the glass is soundproof. So you're not getting those moments. And it's totally different. Like it's impossible for you not to kind of feed off that energy. I have a job to do looking at the camera and making sure everything stays in frame, but all of that crowd noise is getting pumped into the microphone that's picking it up, and you go back and watch it. And yeah, it adds to that like cinematic nature of any great highlight. It's what you hear, that the initial roar after a big play. There's nothing that beats it.
That's great stuff. Thanks, Dom. And this is On the Beat with Dom Tibbetts and on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, presented by FanDuel. The FanDuel line now for Bills at Patriots. The Bills are favored 1.5. And I got to ask you, I just feel like, you said, well, fans are hanging around. I mean, why wouldn't you hang around? God knows what team is going to show up game to game and how it's going to ebb and flow. So, the overall question is, who is this team, Dom? As you look at it, how do you diagnose and project where they have to be week in and week out?
It's a great question, John, because we've asked Sean McDermott that I think every single week. What is your identity of this team? What's the fabric of the intertwining of what makes this team tick? I think the best way that I could give you an answer right now is that it is a team that still lives or dies by Josh Allen. And I think that's okay because the Bills have found success in ways to win ball games doing that as well. And they're a team that you can't count out. Look at how many games this season where if one or two plays don't go one certain way, we're talking about a team that might just be like Kansas City sitting 6-7 with a playoff pitcher totally almost out of the equation. Yet they're sitting here 9-4. I know there are some bad losses. There are some really tough ones and some really bad tape to go back and look at. But that to me is just a team that they're just not out. They're never out of it. And I think it has a lot to do with Josh. And I think Sunday's game against Cincy proved that the defense still has that really innate ability that at the moments when they need to get a crucial takeaway that flips the tide of the game, swings momentum back in Buffalo's favor. It's not a healthy way to live. If you have cardiac problems, I'm sure you would love if the Bills just blew everybody out like they do in a Madden video game for most people out there. But that's just not the nature of this team. That's not the reality. This team has a lot of holes and they have a lot of flaws, but they are a team that does have multiple ways of winning a ball game. And Josh Allen is far and above the guy who makes that engine run.
Yeah, totally agree. Josh Allen and I think a revamped running game and a very exciting running game where they're doing a lot out of a similar formation, but running quite a variety of plays. Let's jump back in time a little bit and talk about the loss to the New England Patriots back in, I think it was October. And, as best as I can see it, and I want to get your take on it. I usually look at a couple of things. Third down efficiency, I look at rushing yardage, I look at penalties, and I look at turnovers, and not necessarily in that order. It's usually turnovers, penalties, rushing yardage. And although the Bills ended up with more rushing yards than the Patriots, the 11 penalties for 90 yards and 3 turnovers, was that entirely the story of the game? Or, you have to afford a little bit of a compliment to the way the Patriots ran their game plan. Kind of dig into what you recall from that game and how the Bills are going to have to figure stuff out offensively or defensively this time around.
Yeah, I think you go back, you look at the last 4 games defensively for the Patriots. I think I was reading the stat is that over the last 4 games, they've, I forget the exact number, but they're giving up double digits in terms of almost on yards per carry to running backs or something of that nature. So they have some major injuries and things that have shifted up there too. And I think that's where the Bills need to go back to the well a little bit. And what I recall from the game when, a few months ago when the Bills were wearing those Nike jerseys is I think they got to find a way to get the ground game, going again, exploit that. This team becomes so much better. And you saw a little bit of that too against Cincinnati when James Cook can get going, when Ty Johnson can kind of be that third down back that gets his a little bit too. The offensive dimension changes immensely. And then you saw them roll out a little bit of that play action stuff that they did with Dawson Knox, which I thought was really fantastic. I'd like to see them go back to that well a little bit there too. It still felt like in that first matchup against the Patriots, all these things, John, that we've had to question with Joe Brady and the inconsistencies of this Bills offense, a lot of those issues that we've now been able to diagnose over the course of the season were starting to pop up in that moment. So it's about trying at this point, you're going into week 14, week 15 of the season. You've got to be able to diagnose what has gone right and go back to that well. And you've got to start throwing the things that aren't working out the window. And I really hope that Khalil Shakir starts catching more passes beyond the line of scrimmage. That would be where I would like to start, if we're being totally honest. But yeah, you've got to be able to find a way to move the ball offensively. Scoring 39 points, 41 like they did against the Ravens, on and on and on. It's not easy. It's not always something that's sustainable. But the Bills have proven that if you can put up points and against the Patriots, right? Like they scored 27 points in that first New England game. The Bills win. Right, 23-20. I think the score was there too.
That's so right, 23-20.
You've got to just find a way to unlock beyond the bare minimum of what Josh Allen and that offense can do. And I think they're going to find a lot more success if they're able to finally get over that hump. But if they start referring back to these, I would call it inconsistencies, the questionable play calling, the James Cook doesn't get the running assignment on a 3rd and 1 that should have just been an easy conversion. If those things start popping up, the New England Patriots are way too good. See you later. The division is truly gone. And now you're going to continue to fight for playoff seeding at that point.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm going to add one little wrinkle. I feel like Joe Brady early in training camp should have recognized the limitations of the wide receiver room, tight end room. Now, these are all quality players. But without, say, whatever you want to call it, marquee receiver, wide receiver 1, what have you, I feel like the evolution of the offense should have happened a lot sooner, like back in training camp. We should have been running these bigger, heavier sets, a lot more play action, grinding in the run game, and doing basically what I feel like the Patriots did to the Bills in that October game. Mm-hmm. I didn't see Drake May chucking it downfield too far. These were smart, and who's going to make the first mistake. And the Bills repeatedly made the mistakes in turnovers and in penalties. So Dom, let's transition a little bit to how the entire AFC is shaking down right now. New England 11-2, the Bills 9-4, and I'm not sure, is that a 2 or 2.5 game lead that New England has over Buffalo right now. Pittsburgh in the North, that is just a disaster that Pittsburgh is even leading the North. But Jacksonville at 9-4, and the Houston Texans trailing at 8-6. Indianapolis, of course, 8-6. Big problems there at the quarterback position, such that they dragged a guy. I think they went to the cemetery and dug up Phillip Rivers, who hasn't been on an NFL football field for 5 years. Count them. That's as many fingers as I have on each hand. And the Denver Broncos, surprisingly, continue their run and are 11-2. So all things being equal, the Patriots and the Bills win out. One of them can't win out, right? The Bills win out. What does it take? The Bills win out. We need the Patriots to drop. Is it 2? They got to drop
3. They need to lose 3 games because they have a 2.5 point or 2.5 game lead for them technically. And the Bills would need to win in the head-to-head, and the Patriots somehow have to drop 2 other games aside from Buffalo.
Well, now, does it require them to lose to the Dolphins and the Jets, or can it be 2 games right, to win the division?
Oh, that's a good. It might be AFC too, because that's the thing. Like with the Bills playing the Eagles, is like it'll affect the overall, but it doesn't hurt your conference if it's close like that. That now we're starting to go into the standing things, John, that I don't know exactly, but I just know from my conversations with my colleagues and the people around the beat is that the Patriots need to find a way to lose 3 games. The way I was told it, just find 3 games and lose them. So whether that's in conference, out of conference, lose them.
Let's unpack that right now. So the Patriots' remaining schedule is home against Buffalo, at Baltimore, which could be dangerous, right?
Sure.
And then at New York and home against Miami. Now, I think you can pick 3 if you call the Bills one of them, and then you got to pick up 2 more losses from New England. I think chances are it's more than likely at Baltimore and then maybe at New York, but I don't see them really losing to they'll win at New York, and potentially hosting Miami could be a challenge.
Yeah, I'm with you there too. I have a tough time seeing that. I think the Ravens, given where they are, backs against the wall, but still competing for the AFC North, given just way that division is shaking out, that's not an easy game. You just don't know which Lamar Jackson's going to show up, what side of the Ravens defense you're going to get there too. I don't believe in the Jets because they don't have a quarterback. Neither really do the Dolphins, but hey, maybe the Dolphins have a little bit of that Week 18, 2017 Cincinnati magic where if it boiled down to it, they could do a favor to their, hey, we didn't want Jalen Waddle for a 2027 first round pick from you guys, but you know what we'll do? We'll return the favor. We'll try to beat New England and you guys can win the division. Again, I'm speaking pure hypothetical. I don't see it that way either, John, but that would be the best case scenario, I think, of how the Bills have a remote chance of winning this division. But it starts, they have to win Sunday, and that's just not the line being 1.5 is right about what I would have thought, but to me, it's a coin toss. This is going to be such a good game, and it could go so many different directions.
Right. And I think if you compare the remaining schedule versus the remaining schedule of the Patriots, I'd say, Philadelphia right now is kind of in a little, last night's game was just unbelievable, right? Shocking at that performance. So they're kind of trying to find themselves. They're struggling a little bit. So you might even just say that the Bills have a clearer path to winning out than New England does. That's a possibility. By and large, what I would, kind of tell everybody is you live in the town with the greatest sports food that there possibly is. And I'm talking about, get out over to the Anchor Bar, right? The original chicken wing developed by these wonderful people, the Bellissimos, in 1964. Not only can you get unbelievable wings and 23 different sauces and dry rubs, you can get appetizers like boneless wings, chicken tenders, beef on weck, fresh burgers, sandwiches, salads, and wraps. I am lucky enough that there is an Anchor Bar in Tucson, Arizona. They're in Frisco, Texas, Raleigh, North Carolina, 14 other locations. When my friends ask me what to do when I go to Buffalo, I tell them you got to head to the original Anchor Bar. You got to get that taste of Buffalo on Main Street. And then, you know what, get your butt to a Bills game. But thank you, Anchor Bar, for sponsoring the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. I love me some wings, okay? And I love them even better when we're celebrating. I'm just, yeah, right? Who doesn't? What do you think the keys are for the Bills? You know, give me a key offensively, give me a key defensively going forward for this Patriots game.
I think offensively for the Bills, it's what a lot of opposing offenses try to do to Buffalo. I need to see it in reverse. I want to see the Bills really take the time of possession back in control. So whether that's running these heavy sets, looks like Kincaid is going to be good to go. Suffered no setbacks in the Cincy game. So bring out these 13-man personnel, exploit that run differential that the Patriots have been dealing with in the past 4 games, get James Cook going, utilize Ty Johnson, but then work into some of those play action things that we were talking about earlier, John. I think that is the evolution of where the offense needs to go, knowing that, like we said earlier, you just don't have the Stephon Diggs S-type, the Kayshon Boutte vertical threat guy that's going to beat you deep or make an opposing defensive coordinator scared. But what does make an opposing defensive coordinator scared is when you've got a back who's really good, a quarterback who can run and throw it on you all day, and then a really good tight end who's one of the best pass catchers in the NFL, period. You can do all sorts of those kind of things on offensively, and I think you're going to find some success there. If you're Buffalo defensively, I mean, you watch probably a little bit of whatever Monday night game was. Defensively, you just got to find a way to slow down Drake May. I don't think he's going to have a Jalen Hurts-esque type game out there. It doesn't really seem to me that's Drake May's character. But if you're the Bills defense, you've got to force some turnovers. You've got to get Drake May off his game. I want in my heart, John, to say the Bills pass rush has to show up, but it hasn't really showed up all season. So I don't know if it's the Christmas miracle that all of a sudden is going to show up in the month of December. I'm not going to buy into the fact that it's going to all of a sudden be a magical rejuvenation for this unit. I think they're pretty banged up. I think they've got guys playing out of position. Example, TJ Sanders, where it's kind of just a mumbo jumbo. So they've got to just find ways to get Drake May in this offense kind of out of sync a little bit there too.
A little uncomfortable, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Just take them out of rhythm.
There was a little bit of that in the last game against Cincinnati. We saw an inside pressure game that looks like we kind of borrowed, begged, and stole from Houston, which worked against us. You know, that obviously needs a little bit more polish, a little bit more practice. We've had pretty good success coming off the edge, not so much bringing guys up through the middle, but I think that is probably the way they'll end up because Poyer and Bishop seem to be playing pretty well right now. I thought Trey White was solid in the last game. Max Harrison seems to be coming along. Christian Benford hitting his stride. And the addition of Shaq Thompson, in addition to being a performer, a motivational voice, a true leader of this defense. So I couldn't agree with you more. You know, what Marv Levy would say is to win the game, you got to run and stop the run, and you got to win the turnover battle. And then I think later on in his career, he mentioned something about, you know, have your average pass be over 6.5 or 7 yards, and you win 98% of the games. I'm not going to argue with Marv Levy. I mean, the guy's got an encyclopedic knowledge of football. But hey, listen, everybody out there, this is the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, and we are having On the Beat, and we've got the fantastic Dom Tibbetts here when he's not hustling a camera around on game day. He is at WKBW in Buffalo. That's Channel 7 ABC. Dom, really, it's really fun having you, getting your insights. Anything you want to share about, you know, I'm of the opinion that regardless of where we are, our record currently, there's always going to be this feeling from the Bills. They want to be loose. They want to be confident. But do you feel like there's any underlying, holy crap, you know, a little lack of confidence? Do you ever get any feelings of that nature?
Not really with this team. I really think Sunday's game against Cincinnati was evident of that. I mean, the thing that Von Miller always used to say, which kind of has lingered and stuck around this locker room, that phrase "don't blink." For as maybe cliche and as coachy as that sounds, sometimes we in the media don't always want to hear that from a Josh Allen soundbite. But I kind of think that's what the locker room has embodied a little bit there too. Is that we understand who we are a little bit. That not everything is going to go our way. But like Josh said, the point is to always just get one more point than the other team, win a ball game. Simple as that. I think that mindset in of itself, John, you have to have confidence to have that because it's a risky way of playing football, and it's a weird mindset to go in and kind of know that you're going to have to kind of junkyard dog with these matchups against other NFL teams. But I think in order to do that, you've got to be confident in yourself, confident in the guys in the locker room. And if there's one thing that I'm usually 99% certain of is that the locker room is just about as tight knit as they say it is.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. And it's good to get from you because you're inside, right? You got the insider perspective here. It's what I would have expected your answer to be. And I think they always, athletes are truly optimists when they get out onto the field, right? In preparation and performance. I have to ask you kind of a strategic question in relationship to McDermott and the overall NFL. There's this talk like, on fourth down, almost regardless of where you are on the field, even if you're at the -40, you see teams going for it more often than ever before in their own field of play. And it's about possessions, right? Not so much field position anymore. And I want your take on that strategically.
I think it's the point I said, which was the key that I thought the Bills offense needs to have Sunday against New England. It's that time of possession factor and controlling the ball offensively, I think is so important. I think when you're Sean McDermott, you look at the course of his coaching career, as he's been the head coach of the Bills, you go back, John, to, and this just as well as I do, the first couple of years in those early playoff battles with the Chiefs, the amount of times that some of that conservative play calling came back and just bit him and really struck a chord, I think, with the fan base and with reporters and media, when we'd have to ask and talk to him about, hey, why'd you do this? What made you want to do this? Well, then in the 2018 draft, he's gifted this guy named Josh Allen, who can go and get you 5 yards with his legs all of a sudden on these 4th and 5 conversions. When you need to have them, you now have that guy to have that in that point. So I think for McDermott, he's got a nice little ace up his sleeve, knowing he's got 17 there to help convert, these 4th downs. But it's the day and age of football where you need to be in, right? If you're the Buffalo Bills and you're thinking, I'm a Super Bowl contending team with aspirations to hoist the Lombardi, it comes with risk. And it goes back to that whole confidence mindset thing, right? You have confidence in this team because they know they got to take some risk. And I think you go back, watch like Monday night game last night, for example, John Harbaugh punting at, I think, the 50-yard line, or maybe even on just the very plus side of his own field there for the Chargers. Like that kind of stuff. If McDermott did that like he used to back in the day, fans would rip him to shreds, as would we. Because why would you want to take an offense that is led by the reigning MVP, a literal white horse Goliath, off the field? That's the best asset for this entire Buffalo Bills, right? Arguably the 2 best players are him and James Cook. Keep them on the field as much as you can. So I think that aggressive nature has started to really suit McDermott well. And I think that's the evolution of him also buying into the confidence of, hey, sometimes I got to just let the offense, led by Josh, just go get me one.
And the white horse Goliath. All right, I'm writing that one down. I'm going to use that one.
I was trying to mix like a Chris Stapleton song together with, a fairy tale term. It was just a mumbo jumbo. I honestly, John, I've just run out of words to describe Josh Allen.
I like it. Point. Yeah, you're right. I mean, we're out at the asymptote, right? Like what else can we say? A question here for you that popped up in the chat from Old Man Harris. Dom, do you have a go-to guy after a game to interview?
Ooh, so ever since I started hopping on the camera, running up and down the sideline for 7, I actually do the main press conference because we stream that back to the station. So that's Alan McDermott and then the guy or two that they give us. So I've stopped going to the locker rooms after games. During the week, though, in practice, Oh man, one of my guys I've always gone to since day one when I got here in 22 is Greg Rousseau. Greg and I have a good relationship. Khalil was also up there too, but more so this year, and I did a sit down with him way back in right as the 53-man roster was set to be initially cut, which is funny because when I sat down with him, John, he didn't know if he was going to be on it, but it was Shaq Thompson, which is incredible what he's developed into, right? Being where he is in his career. But Shaq has been another one of my favorites too. They're all very down to earth, good guys to talk to. And when you need to ask them a certain question, and there's a lot of times where I'll ask a question where I know what I'm trying to ask, but sometimes it takes a little dancing to get to that point. They're pretty patient with a lot of us and letting us get our question out and giving us an insightful answer. It's easy for them to be like, yeah, we just got to play hard and do well, and then we'll win a football game. No, they're insightful. They think about their answers. They care. AJ Epinesa, that's another one too. So that's a couple guys defensively I would say go to. Yeah, Khalil offensively. Yeah, I don't want to leave anybody out, but those are the kind of guys that popped to my head initially.
Now that's fantastic. I know our audience really enjoys hearing that. It's kind of a peek behind the curtain and get a true sense of the team and the guys on the team that we know, that we love, that we get to see perform on the weekends. I'm going to wrap us up here, Dom. I know you've got a little bit of a frog in your throat, getting over anything. This is the time in the show where I say, well, you got any final thoughts you want to throw at me?
Ooh, good final thought. I've got two. I'm going to shamelessly plug myself, but I have one thought right now. If you look at the playoff bracket, if the season were to end today, the Bills would be the 6th seed going to Jacksonville. Chargers would be the 5 seed going to Pittsburgh. And then I believe it would be Houston, the 7 seed going to play Denver. If that bracket held up, I think that's the most ideal situation for the Buffalo Bills. I want them as the 6th seed going to Jacksonville. Sign me up every day. I always think when it comes to these playoff things, and we'll obviously, we'll talk about more this stuff as we get closer to the end of the regular season, but it's the quarterback matchups. That's what I look at in the playoffs, is like, what offense is going to give the Bills the biggest headaches? I think Jacksonville is not a scary team. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is that good. I think Pittsburgh, obviously, with Aaron Rodgers, is not that good either. So even if you got the 5 seed, went to Pittsburgh, I think you're okay there too. Bo Nix in Denver, as somebody who owns him on a fantasy team, listen, I think he's good, but I just don't know if he's playoff ready like the Bills are at this point. I mean, there's nobody who's been more battle tested in the playoffs than Josh Allen and the Bills. So I think the Bills are in a good spot right now if the season were to end today. That is my final thought. Aside from go on social media, Twitter, Instagram, mainly at Dom Tibbetts TV. Brother Bill and I, everyone's favorite unofficial family member, have started a podcast of our own, spawning off Leading the Charge. That's available anywhere you stream and download your podcast. So after you listen to Overreaction right here on the Believe Network and FanDuel, then pop over and just check us out too. We'd appreciate the support. We're the young guys in this big space, John, of really talented content creators and media members who just love sharing our insight about the Bills with the millions of Bills Mafia fans that are out there.
I have to say, last year, still this year, actually, the playoff game against the Ravens, this little guy comes popping up to me and says hello, and I'm like, hello, and he's like, it's me, and I'm like, hello, you, and he's like, it's Brother Bill, and I was like, oh my God. So I don't, that's the amazing thing about social media, just getting connected to people, all the people, of course, in our chat. Thank you for coming. We have great connection with everybody who supports us. What about New Year's Eve? What do you got for the Duke Blue Devils against the Arizona State Scummy Devils? What do you think?
I don't know if you can. It's not like horns down, but like, can I fork down? Is that a possibility? I'll say go Duke. Dwayne Carter would appreciate it too, if God forbid he sees this as well. So fork downs. I've got Duke. I think Duke probably blows them out there. What's funny is, quick story, John, is I do owe Kenny Dillingham, the ASU coach, an apology. He was the offensive coordinator at Florida State when I was working in Tallahassee. And I was on the record saying, I don't think he's a good coach. I don't think he'll ever make it as a successful college football coach. He proved me wrong. That was a dumb take on my part. So sorry, Kenny, but I'm still saying forks down. I'll take Duke there by 20.
Oh, wow, that's a lot. The Duke Blue Devils, led by Bruno Fina and Roman Fina, will be at the Sun Bowl on New Year's Eve. Make sure you catch that on TV and root for the Duke Blue Devils. In spite of my daughter Mimi, who graduated from ASU, so she was a little bit split. But when it comes down to Duke, I think she roots for her brothers. She is a huge ASU fan and former club rugby player at ASU. So hats off to my daughter, Mimi. I won't be conflicted at all as a former University of Arizona football player. I despise the Sun Devils, so it's pretty easy choice
Your
for
line,
me.
your line is clearly drawn in the sand. You do not have to worry. Right there.
Very easy. So for me, for Jerry, who's on tomorrow night with Zig Fracassi on 7 days to Sunday, where they look forward to this game. And for Anthony Marino, who does the walkthrough for us on Saturdays before the game, a little 15-minute hit to get your appetite wet for the game. For Joe Miller, the founder of our triumvirate, if you will. And who am I missing? Dan Freddy for Mafia Bets. If you're into betting, Dan Freddy's the guy. He does it professionally. He gives you his insight. He shares his bets with you online. If you want to figure out what to bet, how to bet, go see Dan Freddy. So again, thanks to Dom Tibbetts. This is John Fina on the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network on the beat. Thank you so much for coming. And I'm going to say, go Bills.
See you later. Thanks, John. Appreciate it, everybody. Have a good one.
Dom, thanks again, man.
No, John, thank you. Thanks for bearing with me. Appreciate it. Glad my voice held up right there to the very end. So, no, glad you guys. Joe's always been good with me. We were trying to get us on 2 weeks ago, and I just totally missed his message. So, I appreciate you guys always having me on. So that was fun.
Yeah, man, it was great to have you. Thanks so much.
Of course, have a good night and go Duke.
Yeah, have a good recovery, man. Hope you feel better.
See ya.